Hi, all, welcome back. So, in this session, we are going to cover a very important concept that you should be aware about when it comes to the OLTP and OLAP system. It is just not about the OLTP and OLAP system, but in general, when it comes to the different type of files that you are going to hear about in the data engineering world, you are going to listen to two different specific terms. One is the Rowstore, another is the Columnstore. So the way the data is stored in the Rowstore and Columnstore way of storing the data is completely different. And depending upon your requirement, depending upon how you are going to access the data and how you are going to write the data or update the data or delete the data, depending upon which you are going to choose the type of the storage, whether it is going to be the row store kind of storage or whether it is going to be the column store kind of storage. So whatever it is going to be will depend upon the operations that you're going to perform on top of it. So before talking about the different operations, let us quickly see what is row store and column store data, or what is the difference between these two. Let us say that you have a table, right? So over here we have a table where we have multiple different columns. We have ID, name, city, and sales, and we have multiple records in this table. Now, when it comes to the row store structure, which is mostly in the OLTP system, where you are going to perform a lot of transactions. Transaction could be a simple insert operation, it could be an update operation, it could be a delete operation, right? So selecting only a single or a few subset of the data. Performing update operations, let us say that we are performing an update where we are changing the city for Alice from New York to London or something like that. So if the city is changing, it is a simple update operation which is going to happen only on a specific record. When it comes to the row store way of storing the data, as you can see that the complete row is being stored together. So now when you are going to read the data, or whenever you are going to perform any insert operation, insert update, delete operation, CRUD operation, you or the disk will be able to do that, or your storage would be able to manage it more efficiently because the complete data is sitting together for the complete row. So as you can see, we have 1, Alice, New York, and then 100. Similarly, once that row has completed, from there we have the other data being stored. So if you imagine about it, it is basically you have a disk where the data is being written. So the first row has been written, after that the second row has been written, after that the third row has been written, and so on. This is the row store data. When it comes to the column store data, the data for the complete column will be sitting together. So if you see the city column, you can see that the complete city column data, which is New York, LA, and again New York, is sitting close to each other. Now, if you are performing any operation where you are saying that I want to see the count of customers that I have in a specific region, it will be able to do it much faster because now we have all this data sitting together. Now, if you are running any operation, such as if you are running any OLTP query, which is going to be a select star where the ID is equal to 2, we would be able to get the complete record pretty fast because the complete record has been sitting together. Right, so it starts from a specific location in your disk and it ends at a specific location. So that is the only place in a sequential order that your hard disk or your storage has to read. So this is going to be fast. But when it comes to the OLAP system, if you perform the same select query over there, now the data is distributed across multiple different regions of your disk. So now reading a single record will be more time consuming in your column store structure because the single row has been distributed across multiple different locations depending upon the columns that you have. So your column first, which is the ID column, its data is sitting together. The next column that we had was the name column. It's all data is sitting together, and similarly the city and the sales. In OLAP system, if you're performing a single transaction or a simple transaction or a transaction on a few records, that is going to be more time consuming. But when it comes to the reporting needs where you need to perform an operation on multiple or millions and billions of records, that is where the OLAP system is going to be more fast and more efficient in comparison to your row store structure. As you can see that if we are selecting the sum of sales from sales, and if you perform the same operation on your row store structure, one data is sitting over here, another is over here, and another is over here. So the way that the disk is going to read the data is not in the sequential way. So some data is here, some there. So in this case, your database has to read the complete data to fetch this information out. Whereas when it comes to the column store way, because all the data is sitting together, it does not even need to read the data which is not required. So it is not going to read the ID column, it is not going to read the name, it is not going to read the city, it is just going to read the column which you are inquiring about. So it is just going to read the sales data. So that is where the sales data, that is where the column store structure is beneficial or is more efficient. So it is efficient only in those cases where you are going to perform an OLAP kind of query, where you are creating a report where you are going to ingest a lot of data and you are going to perform an operation on billions and millions of records. So whenever you have that kind of requirement, mostly you're going to use the column store structure. So when it comes to the column store structure, that is your OLAP system. But whenever it comes to the transactions, such as you are creating a database for your banking system, that is your OLTP system, right? So you're going to perform thousands of transactions per second, and every transaction is going to be a very simple transaction. You're going to perform one insert on a single record, an update or a delete in a single record. But when it comes to the reporting needs, you're not going to check the information for each and every user. You are going to check the information for the complete region, for the complete bank branch or something like that, right? So that is where you are going to read or you are going to perform an aggregation on a lot of data, and that is where the OLAP system is more efficient in comparison to Rowstore. There is another benefit that comes in the column store structure is that it is able to compress the data. The reason it is able to compress the data is because the same data is sitting together. So if we have city, and if we are talking about in just three call records that we have over here, we have New York, which is being repeated twice. So if we have 1 billion records, the New York might be repeated 20 million times or 30 million times. So it is not even required to store that New York value again and again. It will be stored in the dictionary, and the pointer will be stored instead of the actual data. So the comparison, not the comparison, but the compression can be done in the column store structure. And it is done mostly. So when it comes to the Parquet files, when it comes to the Delta files, which is basically the Parquet file only. So whenever it comes to the column store way of storing the data, there is always a data compression. If you have ever seen Power BI or you have seen analysis services, the same data that you are storing in your OLTP system, where it takes, let us say, 550 GB, could be stored in 5 GB or even 4 GB or right, so because it will be able to compress the data. So to summarize whatever that we covered in this session, a row store is something where the data for the complete row is stored together in the sequential order, whereas the column store structure is where the data for the complete column is stored together in the sequential order. So if you are performing the operations based upon a single column, that is where you are going to use the column store. If you are performing the CRUD operations and you are going to perform on a single record update or delete or something like that, in that case, you're going to use the row store. So your SQL Server is your OLTP system because that is how it stores the data by default. Your Parquet file is the column store. Your data warehouses is basically the column store structures, where that is how they store the data internally. So that's all to be covered in this session. See you in the next one. Bye.